From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is urging Filipinos to embrace unity, compassion, and selfless service as the nation joins Muslims worldwide in marking Eid al-Adha, the Feast of Sacrifice. In a message released Wednesday, the President honored the Muslim community and reflected on the story of Prophet Ibrahim, calling it a powerful reminder of unwavering faith, complete submission to Allah's will, and trust in a purpose greater than oneself. President Marcos said the sacred observance challenges people to look beyond personal desires and recognize that true fulfillment comes from obedience, humility, and devotion. He stressed that the essence of Eid al-Adha carries a universal message that sacrifices made with sincerity and love become a source of strength, enriching families, strengthening communities, and uplifting shared humanity. The chief executive also underscored the role of selflessness in healing divisions and building a more just and compassionate society. President Marcos expressed hope that the celebration would inspire deeper reflection and renew the nation's commitment to solidarity. Eid al-Adha is one of Islam's holiest feasts, commemorating Ibrahim's willingness to sacrifice his son in obedience to Allah.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos received Japan's highest state honors on Wednesday during a formal state call on Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako at the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. The Emperor conferred on President Marcos the Grand Cordon of the Supreme Order of the Chrysanthemum, Japan's most prestigious decoration reserved for foreign heads of state, royalty, and global leaders who have made exceptional contributions to Japan. The First Lady was awarded the Grand Cordon of the Order of the Precious Crown, traditionally bestowed on female members of foreign royal families and high-ranking women dignitaries during state visits. In return, the Philippine first couple conferred the Order of Lacandula with the rank of Supremo or Grand Collar on Emperor Naruhito and the Order of Gabriela Silang on Empress Masako. During the ceremony, the imperial couple extended a warm welcome to the President and the First Lady, a rare honor accorded only to select world leaders. President Marcos is just the third head of state to be received in a state call since Emperor Naruhito ascended the throne in 2019, underscoring the deepening strategic partnership between Manila and Tokyo. The rites were attended by Crown Prince Fumihito, Crown Princess Kiko, and Japan Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. The ceremony featured the playing of the Philippine and Japanese national anthems and full military honors. The President, the First Lady, and members of the Philippine delegation were formally introduced to the Japanese cabinet and senior government officials inside the Take Noma, the Imperial Palace audience room, where the leaders exchanged pleasantries. The imperial couple later escorted the first couple to the palace porch before bidding them farewell. President Marcos is in Tokyo for a 4-day state visit aimed at strengthening cooperation in trade, investment, security, and defense. The visit coincides with the 70th anniversary of the normalization of diplomatic relations between the Philippines and Japan.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. says Philippine-Japan relations are set to reach their highest level yet, with both countries preparing to establish a comprehensive strategic partnership or CSP. Speaking before the Japan-Philippines Parliamentary Friendship League or JPPFL in Tokyo, President Marcos said the planned upgrade reflects the deep trust between Manila and Tokyo amid shifting geopolitical and economic conditions. He noted that the milestone comes as the two nations mark 70 years of normalized diplomatic ties, a relationship he described as one built on reconciliation and shared purpose. President Marcos also highlighted Japan's unmatched development assistance to the Philippines, particularly in Mindanao. The chief executive underscored the need for stronger cooperation in economic and maritime security, defense, trade, and investment, as well as emerging sectors such as clean energy, digital transformation, critical minerals, artificial intelligence or AI, and space technology. He reaffirmed Japan's growing role in promoting peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific and emphasized Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN's central role in shaping an open and rules-based regional order. President Marcos also thanked Japanese lawmakers for their continued support in advancing bilateral ties. The Philippine president is set to address a joint session of Japan's National Diet and meet Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi on Thursday to further expand cooperation.
This year, the Philippines and Japan commemorate the 70th anniversary of the normalization of our diplomatic relations, a milestone that reflects not only the passage of time, but also the depth of reconciliation, trust, and shared purpose that we have carefully built together over the past 7 decades. In this journey, the JPPFL has played a vital role. As parliamentarians, you help ensure that our democratic values are translated into laws and policies that serve our peoples and the broader region. For the Philippines, and I believe for Japan as well, this moment calls not for retreat nor hesitation, but for deeper engagement with one another and with like-minded partners around the world. It is in this context that the Philippines and Japan are moving to elevate our relations to a comprehensive strategic partnership, the highest tier in our diplomatic framework and a first for the Philippines. Japan's contributions to regional security strengthen our collective peace and resilience across the region. Equally significant are Japan's initiatives in advancing economic security, especially in strengthening supply chains, promoting technological innovation while ensuring that new advancements are used ethically and responsibly for the good of humanity, and safeguarding critical industries in an interconnected and an interdependent global economy. We are most appreciative and encouraged by Japan's active participation in deepening regional cooperation, particularly through its dialogue partnership with ASEAN. As we navigate shifting currents, the friendship between the Philippines and Japan continues to evolve and to grow stronger. We look forward to working with the JPPFL as we take it to even greater heights.
Was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines has secured 3.4 billion US dollars in new investment pledges from major Japanese companies following a high-level business roundtable led by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. in Tokyo on Wednesday. The commitments were announced during the president's meeting with top Japanese executives at the Imperial Hotel, which the Presidential Communications Office or PCO described as a strong vote of confidence in the administration's economic agenda. According to the PCO, the combined pledges, roughly 210 billion pesos, are expected to boost industrial capacity, generate thousands of specialized jobs, and strengthen long-term economic growth through upgraded supply chains, tourism infrastructure, and technology transfer. The roundtable formed part of President Marcos's four-day state visit to Japan, aimed at deepening trade, investment, and industry linkages with one of the Philippines' largest economic partners. Addressing Japan's leading conglomerates and financial institutions, President Marcos called for a more integrated and resilient economic partnership amid global supply chain disruptions and energy market volatility. He thanked long-standing Japanese investors including Toyota, Mitsubishi, Marubeni, Panasonic, All Nippon Airways, and Fast Retailing. President Marcos said the Philippines is aligning infrastructure, industry, finance, human capital, and connectivity to support long-term expansion, with trade and tourism positioned as core drivers of growth. He assured Japanese partners of continued reforms to improve institutional efficiency and investment stability. The chief executive is in Tokyo for a state visit focused on strengthening political ties, defense cooperation, economic partnerships, and people-to-people exchanges between Manila and Tokyo.
The Philippines is pursuing a clear national direction, building an economy where infrastructure, industry, finance, human capital, and connectivity move together as one system of growth. And increasingly, we recognize that trade and tourism will be among the most important engines of that growth. Because true development does not happen in isolation. It happens when the entire economy moves in coordination. When infrastructure opens doors, when industry creates opportunity, when finance unlocks ambition, when human capital drives productivity, when connectivity brings people, markets, and ideas together. And when trade expands, the flow of goods and services, tourism expands the flow of people, culture, and investment, growth becomes not only faster, but deeper, more inclusive, and more enduring. In this sense, trade and tourism are not supporting sectors. They are core drivers of economic expansion in the Philippines as we move forward. Japanese companies have long been part of the Philippine story. But today, I want to say this clearly. You are no longer just investors in our economy. You are the builders of our economy. To all our Japanese partners, you know the Philippines not from reports, but from your own experience. You know our people. We are resilient in adversity, ambitious in opportunity, and increasingly connected to global trade and tourism flows. So as we look ahead, let this be our shared message to the world, that Japan and the Philippines are not only partners in history, we are partners in the future. In a time of uncertainty, we choose stability. In a time of fragmentation, we choose cooperation. In a time of hesitation, we will build. The future is not something that we inherit, it is something that we create. Together, Japan and the Philippines will create a future defined not by limitation, but by possibility.
Was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine and Japanese companies have signed a new set of agreements to boost cooperation in digital innovation and smart urban development, further strengthening economic and technology ties between Manila and Tokyo. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. witnessed a signing of several Memoranda of Understanding or MOU between the Ayala Group and major Japanese firms during a ceremony at the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo. According to the Presidential Communications Office or PCO, Ayala formalized partnerships with Mitsubishi Corporation, MUFG Bank, and KDDI Corporation, covering intelligent city solutions, digital finance, marketing technology, and artificial intelligence or AI-driven infrastructure. The PCO said the deals reflect strong Japanese investor confidence in the Philippines and reinforce the country's position as a trusted hub for digital innovation, fintech, and smart city development. The agreements are expected to support more connected, technology-driven communities and expand opportunities for innovation-led growth. The signing came as Japanese companies during a business roundtable led by President Marcos pledged $3.4 billion in new investments in the Philippines. The government has been pushing digital transformation and smart city development as key pillars of its long-term economic strategy, positioning the Philippines as a prime destination for high-value technology and infrastructure investments. Officials say the new agreements form part of broader efforts to deepen Philippines-Japan economic cooperation and accelerate innovation-driven development across the country.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. underscored the vital role of strong Philippine-Japan relations in safeguarding stability and prosperity across the Indo-Pacific during a state banquet hosted by Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako at the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. President Marcos reaffirmed Manila's commitment to deepening its strategic partnership with Tokyo, saying both nations share a responsibility to uphold peace, international law, and a rules-based maritime order. The president described the more than 7-decade-long bilateral relationship as one of the most dynamic and forward-looking partnerships in the region, strengthened by shared values, mutual trust, and a common vision for development. President Marcos noted that cooperation between the two countries continues to expand, from maritime security and humanitarian response to energy and food security, digital transformation, emerging technologies, climate action, and space cooperation. The chief executive thanked Japan for its long-standing support to the Philippines, saying people-to-people ties have further deepened the bond between Filipinos and Japanese. President Marcos also highlighted Japan's consistent solidarity during moments of need, saying the friendship between the two nations has been built not only by governments but by generations who chose understanding, partnership, and shared purpose. The Philippine president is in Tokyo for a 4-day state visit aimed at strengthening political, defense, economic, and cultural cooperation between Manila and Tokyo.
For over 70 years, wave after wave of people-to-people engagement and wide-ranging collaboration have collectively transformed our bilateral relationship into one of the most vibrant and forward-looking partnerships in the Indo-Pacific. Rooted in shared values, strengthened by mutual trust and meaningful cooperation, and guided by a common vision for peace, prosperity, and development. Whether in seasons of abundance or of hardship, Japan has consistently stood shoulder to shoulder with the Filipino people, extending solidarity and assistance at the right moments to reassure us that we have a friend that we can always count on. The Philippines remains committed to working closely with Japan to harness our intensifying strategic partnership as a force for good, not only for our two countries, but also for the broader Indo-Pacific region.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang says President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is confident his 4-day state visit to Japan will help attract more Japanese investors to the Philippines. In a statement, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said, interest from foreign businesses continues to grow as the administration pushes economic reforms and intensifies its anti-corruption drive to create a more investor-friendly environment. Her statement comes amid reports that some Japanese manufacturers remain cautious due to concerns over tax issues, corruption, infrastructure gaps, and political disputes. Castro stressed that ongoing reforms are aimed at addressing these challenges and boosting investor confidence. She said the administration's efforts to streamline processes and curb corruption are positive actions that strengthen trust in the Philippine business climate. During his visit, President Marcos is scheduled to meet with top Japanese business leaders. Japan remains one of the Philippines' biggest investment and development partners, particularly in manufacturing, infrastructure, renewable energy, and technology. In 2025, Japanese firms committed 14.78 billion pesos in new and expansion projects in Philippine economic zones, making Japan the top source of approved investments for the period. Last year, the Philippines also secured around 51 billion pesos in commitments from Japanese conglomerates involved in clean energy, advanced industries, real estate, and consumer services following investment missions in Tokyo and Osaka.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. will continue to focus on improving the lives of Filipinos, Malacañang said on Wednesday, despite recent survey results showing a decline in public satisfaction on the chief executive's performance. In a media briefing in Tokyo, Japan, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said, the President and his administration remain focused on governance and service delivery, regardless of fluctuations in survey ratings. Castro made the remark after a social weather stations or SWS survey conducted from March 23 to 31 showed President Marcos's net satisfaction score falling to poor -15, down by 12 points, neutral -3, recorded in November of 2025. The survey found that 33% of adult Filipinos were satisfied with President Marcos's performance, while 49% were dissatisfied and 18% were undecided. Castro said survey results are taken into consideration as the administration continues to improve government services and performance. She acknowledged that survey figures may help the government further improve its performance. She, however, noted that different survey firms produce varying results, citing a recent Okta research survey which showed that the president emerged as the highest rated among the country's top officials. Castro added that the administration remains committed to easing the hardships faced by Filipinos, including economic challenges triggered by the Middle East crisis.
Marami pong mga survey firms naglalabas ng kanilang mga resulta. Iba't ibang mga respondents ang kanilang nakakapanayam. Noong nakaraan lamang po sa Boses ng Bayan ng Okta, lumalabas po na ang Pangulo, si Pangulong Marcos Jr. ay tinagurian o binanggit na highest rated among the top 4 officials in a nationwide survey. So, kung may mga pagkakaiba man sila sa mga numero, pagkakaiba-iba ng mga survey firms, Naniniwala po tayo at ang administrasyon na ito na patuloy ang gobyerno sa pagtatrabaho, pagbibigay ng ayuda at tulong sa ating mga mamamayan. Hindi po tumitigil ang Pangulo na maibsan ang anumang hirap na dinadanas ng ating mga mamamayan, especially dulot ng krisis sa Middle East. Anumang numero yan, tumaas, bumaba, patuloy ang Pangulo sa pagtatrabaho at pagbibigay ng good governance.
That was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang says the tensions unfolding in the Senate offer Filipinos a chance to reflect on whether their elected leaders are prioritizing public service or personal interest amid heated debates on proposed rule changes allowing remote participation in plenary sessions. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the existing Senate rules are functioning as intended, and the push to amend them has raised valid questions about lawmakers' motivations. Her remarks came after minority senators walked out of Tuesday's session during a contentious discussion on allowing remote attendance and voting under justifiable reasons. Castro stressed that the executive branch will not intervene, reiterating respect for the Senate as a co-equal and independent institution. She noted that remote voting was previously allowed only during the COVID-19 pandemic and other emergencies, and that no similar circumstance exists today, but emphasized the matter is solely for senators to resolve. Castro added that the Marcos Jr. administration remains focused on its governance agenda while allowing the Senate to address its internal issues.
Lumalabas po talaga na maayos naman ang mga rules at nais lamang nila itong baguhin. Nadinig na rin po natin mismo kay Senator Alan Cayetano na ang hindi pagpunta at pagpunta mismo ni Senator Bato de la Rosa sa Senado habang siya ay nagtatago noon ay isang justifiable reason dahil hindi nga daw nabibigyan ng seguridad kung ito ay maaaresto o hindi. So, ito ba ay isa sa mga justifiable reasons na mababanggit para makapagboto online? So, ito ay talaga malaking question, although noong pa natin sinasabi na ang mga nagaganap sa Senado ay kanilang pagdidesisyon at hindi naman ito panghihimasukan ng Pangulo at ng administrasyon na ito. Ngunit dito natin makikita ang mga Pilipino dito, makikita ito ang magandang pagkakataon para malaman nating lahat kung ang mga liderato ba at mga leaders na ito ay nagtatrabaho para sa bayan o para sa pansarili o pang-iilan lamang. Kagaya nga na sinabi ni General Luna, bayan o sarili, mamili ka. Dati naman ay napayagan ng online voting, mga Zoom meeting, dahil meron tayong kalamidad na hinaharap noon. At sa pagkakataong ito ay wala naman tayong masasabi na anumang force majeure, calamity, na mag-justify ng mga online voting. But still, muli, ito ay nasa kanilang pagpapasya. Wala sa pagpapasya ng administrasyon, wala sa pagpapasya ng Pangulo. At dapat din siguro malaman nila na mahirap magkaroon ng online voting kung wala ang tao mismo sa mga pagpupulong at pagkakaroon ng diskusyon.
That was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine government has launched a new heritage program designed to help overseas Filipino workers or OFWs and their families reconnect with its history and culture. The Department of Tourism or DOT, Department of Migrant Workers or DMW, and the Intramuros administration rolled out the week-long Pasyal Pamilya program following President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to deepen Filipinos' appreciation of the country's cultural identity. The initiative offers OFWs and their families free guided tours and access to various activities inside Intramuros, giving returning workers meaningful time with loved ones while they are home. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the program is part of the celebration of National Migrant Workers Day every June 7th. Pasyal Pamilya runs until May 31st and is open to all OFWs and returning migrant workers. Participants may bring up to 4 family members and enjoy the free admission and tours presenting a valid Overseas Employment Certificate or Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA membership ID.
Alinsunod sa kautusan ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. na mapalalim ang pagpapahalaga ng mga Pilipino sa kasaysayan at kultura ng Pilipinas, inilunsad ng Department of Tourism, Department of Migrant Workers at Intramuros Administration ang Pasyal Pamilya Program ng pamahalaan. Ang programa ay isang linggong heritage program para sa mga overseas Filipino workers at kanilang pamilya na nag-aalok ng libreng guided tours sa iba't ibang aktibidad sa Intramuros. Layunin din ito na mabigyan ng makabuluhang oras ang mga OFWs kasama ang kanilang mahal sa buhay dito sa Pilipinas. Ayon kay DOT Secretary Dita Angara Matay, ang programa ay bahagi ng pagdiriwang ng National Migrant Workers Day tuwing Hunyo 7 or June 7. Tatagal ang Pasyal Pamilya hanggang May 31 at bukas sa lahat ng OFWs at returning migrant workers. Maaari silang magsama ng hanggang 4 at makakuha ng libreng entrance at guided tours basta maipakita lang na ang kanilang valid Overseas Employment Certificate o ang kanilang OWA membership IDs.
That was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Malacañang has announced that Vietnamese President To Lam will undertake a 2-day state visit to the Philippines from May 31st to June 1st, marking a significant milestone in bilateral relations. In a media briefing in Tokyo, Japan, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the visit carries special significance as it comes ahead of the 50th anniversary of Philippine-Vietnam diplomatic ties and the 10th year of their strategic partnership. It will also be the first state visit to the Philippines by Vietnam's party leader. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. will welcome the Vietnamese leader at Malacañang Palace, where the two heads of state will hold a bilateral meeting. Discussions are expected to reinforce cooperation in trade and investment, food security, defense and maritime cooperation, education, tourism, and people-to-people exchanges. The palace said the talks will reflect on 5 decades of robust cooperation between the two nations. Vietnam remains the Philippines' sole strategic partner in Southeast Asia, anchored on strong engagements across government, the private sector, and grassroots communities. More than 7,000 Filipinos currently reside in Vietnam, and the Philippine Consulate General in Ho Chi Minh City is set to open later this year.
Nakatakdang bumisita sa Pilipinas si To Lam, leader ng Partido Komunista ng Vietnam at Pangulo ng bansa, para sa 2 araw na state visit mula May 31 hanggang June 1, 2026. Mahalaga ang pagbisita dahil ito ay kasabay ng ika-50 anibersaryo ng diplomatikong ugnayan ng Pilipinas at Vietnam at ika-10 taon ng kanilang strategic partnership. At ito rin ang unang state visit ng isang party leader ng Vietnam sa bansa. Inaasahang tatalakayin 2 leader ang pagpapalakas ng kooperasyon sa kalakalan, depensa, seguridad sa pagkain, edukasyon, turismo at ugnayang pangmamamayan. Ang Vietnam ay nananatiling tanging strategic partner ng Pilipinas sa Southeast Asia at patuloy na lumalalim ang relasyon ng dalawang bansa. Kabilang ang planong pagbubukas ng Philippine Consulate sa Ho Chi Minh sa 2026.
That was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.